Celebrating 65 years as your hometown news station. This is KHQ Local News at 5.
From a country concert to total chaos in just moments. A shooter on the Vegas Strip, 32 floors up Mandalay Bay. Police say a 64-year-old man armed with an arsenal opened fire at the crowd nearby. Dozens killed, hundreds injured. Some are talking about security. Others are talking about insecurity, as the biggest mass shooting in America's history is a headline we've seen too often. And good evening, I'm Dan Kleckner. Thank you so much for being with us on this Monday evening. An act of pure evil. That's how the president and others are describing last night's shooting. Today, the full toll became more clear. 59 dead, more than 500 injured. About 40 people have been treated and released from Vegas hospitals. Tonight, big team coverage for you, from the safety of venues here in the Inland Northwest to the extreme need right now for blood. The next 10 minutes devoted to the deadly shooting in Las Vegas. Let's begin with Claire Graham, though. And Claire, we have just learned there's a heartbreaking connection between the Inland Northwest and last night's shooting.
Yeah, Dan, just a couple minutes ago, we have learned one of the 59 people who was killed is 33-year-old Rachel Parker, who grew up in Cheney. She went to Cheney High School and graduated in 2002. A few years later, she moved to Manhattan Beach, California, where she worked as a records tech for the Manhattan Beach Police Department. She was really the front line of defense for the police station there, where she manned the 24-hour front desk. She had been a civilian officer for them for 10 years and was warmly known as the matron of the department. Parker had been at the country music concert in Las Vegas celebrating her friend's birthday. At the Breaking Now desk, I'm Claire Graham. Dan?
Claire, thank you. Meanwhile, the sheriff and several lawmakers in Vegas just wrapped up a joint news conference where we have learned updated and new information about last night's shooting, the gunman, and the aftermath. The sheriff now says 59 people were killed, and the coroner is still trying to identify everyone. 527 people were injured from gunshots, flying shrapnel, getting trampled, or trying to jump fences as they ran from the shooting. The sheriff says the gunman carried 17 guns in at least 10 different suitcases into his hotel room at Mandalay Bay, where he fired into the crowd outside. Now, as law enforcement figured out where he was, they heard gunfire from his room and backed off. But when he shot through the door and wounded a security guard, the SWAT team broke down the door, and by then they say the gunman had killed himself. Well, right now, Spokane International Airport is a beacon of hope for some following the shooting in Las Vegas. It's the last leg of their trip home after experiencing the kind of trauma that is impossible to understand. It's a 2-hour flight that many described as the longest of their lives. KHQ local news reporter Katie Chen was at the airport as families were reunited.
Well, Dan, it was absolutely emotional here. I spoke with a teenager, Jessica, who tells me that she was at the concert and thinks that she only made it out because of one special person that she wants to say thanks to.
I feel like I'm still in shock from last night. I feel like I got hit by a semi-truck.
And still thinking about it?
It's terrifying.
Jessica Long was in Las Vegas at the concert with her mother's friend, Kimberly. She was in the crowd when the gunfire started.
People were saying it felt like firecrackers, but I knew instantly it's like, no, those aren't firecrackers, those are gunshots. So me and Kim took each other's hands and we ran for probably 5 or 6 miles.
As they fled, not knowing which direction to go, Jessica called her dad.
I called him because I wanted to make sure that if I didn't make it, somebody knew that I wouldn't make it.
But thankfully,
I love you.
They did make it. She and her mother made it home safe and wrapped themselves in her sister's and her father's arms. Jessica says it's because of one man, a complete stranger.
I don't think we would have made it if it weren't for that guy who gave us a ride from the New York. I think he said he worked for room service. His name was Juan. I don't know his last name, but I just want to tell him thank you so much.
Now, while Jessica has made it home safe, there are still others making their way back here to Spokane. Is that right, Haley?
Doesn't
include a Spokane Army veteran and his wife, Katie. They are set to arrive here within the next few hours. The couple tells me they just went down to Vegas to enjoy some of their favorite country artists, hoping for a lovely couples getaway out of town, and instead they found their lives on the line. They tell me that they still can't fully wrap their minds around this despicable act.
Kind of weird. I mean, I've done a lot of deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it's kind of different because there's no way to really protect yourself.
This photo was taken just minutes before Army veteran John Tampion, pictured in the black T-shirt, was forced to fight for his life.
Everything that I've ever experienced, an assault rifle, usually they're on the ground. I mean, the last thing we thought is that there was somebody up on the hotel shooting, just because it sounded so close and there's so many.
John's first thought was to protect his wife, Jamie, and their other family members using furniture as shields.
Kind of got down and got out of the way. Over by the bar area, turned over some tables. We didn't really have any way to tell what was going on, so we didn't know if there were shooters outside of the concert.
And that's one of many reasons why so many were hit. They didn't even know which direction to run. John and his family eventually jumped a fence and took shelter at a nearby hotel, taking advantage of the brief break between shots. He says the number of victims was incomprehensible.
For me, it was just trying to get everybody with me out of there and out of the way as much as you could, because you couldn't really do much for everybody around you. There's a lot of people kind of falling down.
And John clearly has seen his fair share of war zones before, but he says nothing has been quite like this. Live from the airport, Haley Gunther, KHQ Local News.
I put myself between the gunfire, the sound of the gunfire, and a couple of my friends, and I'm trying to get them to safety as fast as I can, and in the meanwhile keep the rest of the people around us calm, and stay calm myself, which was really hard to do.
Well, airports across the country were the scene of an emotional reunion. This was in Missoula, where Cody Doyle was one of thousands of people who were at last night's concert. And country singer Jason Aldean released a statement where he says, in part, quote, "It hurts my heart that this would happen to anyone who was just coming out to enjoy what should have been a fun night." End quote. Meanwhile, a Whitefish, Montana man found himself in the middle of last night's horrific scene with his wife.
He told me to get down. We got down and kind of assessed our bearings and got a hold of the situation. He grabbed my hand and led us out pretty swiftly. It was very chaotic. People were screaming and people were running. And he led me towards the entrance in which we came in, which is along Las Vegas Boulevard. And he put me over by a cinder block wall and told me to stay there or go home or just get someplace safe, because he was going to go back in and try to help people. And
she refused.
Yeah, I just, if you're going back in, I'll go back in with you. And
Mike Goguen is a billionaire philanthropist. He made his money in tech and now funds a helicopter rescue program. He says he and his wife tended to countless people, stopping random cars and throwing victims inside to get them to the hospital. Well, one of the most urgent needs in Las Vegas right now is blood. This is a line outside of Vegas Blood Donation Center. You can see it's just packed. Everyone trying to do their part there, and you can help from here as well. Today, KHQ partnered with the Inland Northwest Blood Center to hold a blood drive. INBC says donations have already been sent to Las Vegas. The blood they're getting now is to replenish local supplies, and they will send any more blood to Vegas if needed. We talked with one young woman today who said her heart broke when she heard about the shooting.
My heart broke. I don't understand why things like this happen. I decided that that's the only way that I can help, because times like these you just feel helpless, so donating blood was my way of giving back.
If you'd like to donate, you can do so at 3 different locations: 10,403 North Newport Highway, downtown at 210 West Cataldo Avenue, or in Coeur d'Alene at 405 West Nieder. Well, the big question in all this is, why did the shooter, Stephen Paddock, do this? Well, today law enforcement dug deep into the man they say is responsible for the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. In fact, this afternoon, officials were at a home in northwest Reno that Paddock owned. Detectives say they found 18 guns, explosives, and several thousand rounds of ammunition. They also confiscated electronics like hard drives and computers that they are now evaluating. Neighbors there say they are shocked by what happened. And Paddock's brother described him as substantially wealthy, owning multiple properties. He says his family has, quote, no reason, rhyme, or rationale for the shooting.
I mean, he's definitely only himself. There's no affiliations. I mean, once again, that I know of at all. I mean, there's no affiliations. There's no church. There's no religion. There's no politics. There's no anything.
Eric Paddock went on to say that hearing what happened for the first time was like an asteroid falling from the sky.
Boy, we're in front of Mandalay Bay. We're trying to see where the shots are coming from. If anyone can advise if they're coming from Mandalay.
Well, that is the frantic radio dispatches from moments after the first shots fired calls came in. The response from first responders is being praised across the board. Research shows on average it takes police up to 3 minutes to respond to an active shooter situation. KHQ local news reporter Joe McHale is here to share the few simple rules that you can follow that will increase your chance of escaping a kill box until help arrives.
Confusion and chaos rang out as gunfire exploded on the Las Vegas Strip Sunday night. The tragedy that has terrorized the city is the latest of well over 100 mass shootings in U.S. history, and it's shootings like this that have led to new focuses on how to survive them.
Our ultimate goal is to get out, get away, and you know, active shooter can happen inside, it can happen outside. So.
Lieutenant Shawn Kendall with the Spokane Police Department trains people how to respond in worst-case scenarios like the shooting in Vegas. He says the best thing you can do is prepare now.
And we don't have to physically experience them to have a plan. So thinking about it now, just be prepared. Have that contingency plan in your brain.
We all know what daydreaming is, not focusing on the world around us, essentially living in fantasy. But Lieutenant Kendall says we should all start to danger dream. Think about the worst case scenario and plan for it.
There's evil or danger out there, don't be there, so let's run.
This includes knowing your emergency exits and avoid using the main entrance because it can create a bottleneck.
If you can't get away, let's hide, let's shelter in place, let's improve our position wherever we are.
If possible, find cover that could stop or slow a bullet. Lock doors if you're in a room or barricade them.
And heaven forbid, if the threat's in my face and I can't escape it, be prepared to fight.
Use whatever you have as a weapon, like keys or coffee mugs. And if you're with a group, swarm the shooter. In Spokane, Joe McHale, KHQ Local News.
Well, Joe, thank you. And while the mass shooting may have taken place in an outdoor venue, the reality is that things like this can happen anywhere. KHQ Local News reporter Adam Mayers live now from the Spokane Veterans Memorial Arena. And Adam, you just learned that they're going to be beefing up security.
Well, Dan, it was just last week that Jason Aldean, the headliner there in Vegas, performed here last week at the Spokane Arena. Now, but with even bigger events coming to the arena, like Garth Brooks here within the next few weeks, they're going to be beefing up security and being on high alert.
We're very good friends with the folks that put on Live Nation events, and I can't imagine what they're going through right now.
As the death toll and the number of injured continues to climb, the conversation about security at music venues begins to surface as well. Matt Gibson, the Spokane Arena general manager, says yesterday was the one-year mark where the arena installed metal detectors at gates.
We're already taking precautions over situations like what happened in Las Vegas. And the thing about things like this is you're not quite sure how it's going to go down.
The arena has had a no-gun policy since 1995, with the exception of law enforcers who are allowed to bring in their guns. Gibson says they also have a full staff security that includes members of the Spokane Police Department, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, and Homeland Security. But Gibson added that even with the metal detectors and heightened security, an attack can change.
When guns are no longer effective, then they employ vehicles. And then when that doesn't happen, then they put an explosive device in an off the beaten path location. And so it's a discussion that we continually have with our employees and with our experts in the field.
Now, Gibson says the best thing for people to do, as well as staff there at the arena, is if they see something suspicious, alert security staff there. Live at the arena, Adam Mayer, KHQ Local News.